Right, question number 1. Let's make this one bigger for my old eyes here. Crafting with a synthesis machine feels unnecessarily complex and confusing. Lemon's synth guide is helpful but incomplete since they rely on their own limited resources and patch notes to decipher how it functions. Do you plan to release an official synth guide detailing how it works? If not, would you consider setting up a test server with unlimited resources so players can experiment without using their own? Many MMOs like New World offer test servers where players receive gold and high-level materials for testing. If this has been addressed in the previous Q&A, I apologize, but I believe it's relevant again due to recent updates. And the devs say, we are working on a guide for crafting and progression system in Corepunk. It will reveal key logic behind these mechanics. We plan to present this with the release of Prison Island. Okay, so that's pretty much next month. We ourselves would like to launch permanent test servers. However, as we have mentioned, at this stage, we still have several unresolved critical issues on the live servers. So this is not a priority right now. Currently, we are completely focused on optimizing the client to deliver the smoothest, most tactile gameplay possible. Once all priority tasks are resolved, only then we will bring the test servers online. Okay, fair enough. I mean, the servers do have their issues. Question number 2. Let's talk about transparency. In addition to asking questions on Discord, would it be better to go live, showing what has been done, shows the current reality of the game? Many players really have doubts about what is ready and what is just speculation. Couldn't you do a weekly live show to feature game? Currently, it would be interesting for you to do a PvP live to get an idea of how bad the character mana is. Okay, that's kind of funny of a question there. Of course, it would be much better to have weekly live streams. There is no doubt about that. For many years, we have been transparent about the fact that we cannot afford to do that right now. We simply do not have the resources to maintain full-scale community production alongside developing the actual game. This has nothing to do with transparency. The live servers are the current reality of the game, and we have already stated that content will come in the upcoming content update. To convince doubters about what is actually in the game rather than speculation, it is simply shows the best approach is to simply show it in the game. Answering the first part of your question, yes, it would be better to have weekly streams, ideally playing the game while streaming. We dream of the day when we can do that. Answering the second part, no, we cannot do that at this stage of development. Hi, Dutch. Yeah, I mean, some games have done this, like having the devs play the game and people watch and stuff like that. Because they mentioned New World on question number 1 as an example of test servers, New World did this. It was, you know, a lot of people came to watch and kind of like spiced up Twitch a little bit because they announced it and made it as an event. But I have to admit the gameplay wasn't great. Question number 3, will we ever see a roadmap you promised? We are working on a remote roadmap with high level of production quality, but it will take some more time. In general, we have mentioned the content plan for the full launch in various articles, but to summarize briefly, the plan is as follows. Before we read this, just want to say, they keep asking for this, but we already kind of know. There's been like 10 posts, update newsletters, and all that kind of things for that. So, improved iteration of all progression systems in the game, 2 versions of the extraction dungeon, 1 PvE, PvP, and 1 exclusively PvE. I have to point out, in my opinion, that this last part here is something that I think that just doing it now, that wasn't part of the plan. An instant battleground based on capturing and holding points at the King's Battleground location, auction house. Instanced PvE dungeons with the core and biomes and bosses, PvE procedurally generated dungeons, and improved iteration of the open world gameplay in completely reworked zones. A new city, new biomes, and new enemies, Bastion Tower Defense Game Mode, and Bastion Instance Raid. Throughout this time, new heroes from the Corepunk list will be released, and we will continuously polish Corepunk systems and gameplay. Some content will be released together. Oh, I didn't know Steam had a rule if you don't deliver on your roadmap. Well, they're not on Steam though, so they don't fall on that. This game is not on Steam, so they could have a roadmap. But a lot of people or companies that don't do roadmaps because they don't know if they're going to be 100% on delivering that. New World did this with a roadmap and they have failed miserably. They were only adding half the things they promised per patch on the roadmap, and it had a lot of backlash. So I prefer if we don't have a roadmap, but something that says this is the order we're going to do things without dates and stuff like that, because roadmaps usually have dates on them. But telling you this is the order we're going to do things as they do here, that's fine with me, you know. Okay. One reason why we don't have roadmaps in Steam. Great. Question number 4. I would just love to see more information and footage of upcoming classes, zones, dungeons, and content in general. Show us that you've been working all these years. Let's see the engineer, warlock, or commando. When and where do we fight Granga? Are the trains real? I love the question about the trains. Yeah, we do want to present all of this with high production quality in trailers. We will be able to release some videos by the start of the content update. But most of the content you will have to see directly in the game. We will not have enough time to create high quality promotional content for everything. Regarding the classes mentioned in the question, we might be able to produce quality promo content for them because there is still time before their release. Hopefully we will complete the Defender in time. Ooh. Hopefully we will complete the Defender in time. But since he will be released soon, you may have to explore him in-game. Trains as a feature are not fully implemented yet. As assets, they have been completely finished, including the railroad stations. These assets you can already see in the game. As a feature, we will introduce them a little later. We do need a transport system. That is good news. We do know the Defender is the next class to come in. There was a delay on the Defender, which is a tank. But I don't like this, hopefully, and we will complete. I thought like the Defender was done and he had like details, which I don't know. How about the other classes that are even close to this? Anyways. Question number 5. Oh, this is a big one. I heard that the game is planned to release with level 20 being the max, as well as T3 artifacts being the highest artifact level. Is this true? If so, do you guys believe that the game will have a significant boost in content despite keeping the max level the same? Currently, many people will suggest that there is not enough content for a full game. This is okay for an alpha or early access, but it sounds bad for a full release. What content do you guys have planned to keep players satisfied at level 20 once the game releases? Guilds and auction houses are not content. The players need interesting ways to continue gaining power to want to engage with content in the first place. The content progression curves feel more like giant cliffs, and content for players at every stage of the game needs to be emphasized, not just for endgame players or new players. Mid-game content is extremely important as well. True. I mean, you have to have content. You have to have content throughout, your gaming experience. Yes, we have mentioned several times that the full release of the game will feature 20 levels. The original idea was to have 40 levels at full launch. Later, this idea was changed from 40 to 20. Nothing in the game or its concept has changed. It is just that instead of 40 levels, there are 20 levels. Everything planned in terms of content remains the same. There will be more than enough content for a full game launch. We do not need 40 levels to add content. It is not tied to gameplay. Even at this early access stage, T3 itemization is already a full endgame itemization system, and its volume is enormous even for early access, considering that it's not yet fully finished. Also, right now, we are not planning to release the game fully, and we still have 10 months until the full release. Over those 10 months, we will add new content, polish the existing one. I personally do not agree that guilds and auction houses are not content. They are large and complex pieces of content. All departments of the studio have been working on their creation for a long time, and a huge amount of studio resources are spent on them. They will add many additional hours of gameplay and, accordingly, a lot of content to the game. But this is my subjective opinion. I agree that for some, it might not be considered content because some players simply do not play that way. In general, content is always a very subjective topic. It all depends on the player and the specific preferences. After the next content update, for some players the game will be completely incapable of engaging them for a long time. For others, Corepunk at launch might seem like a game without content. Well, I have to agree that you don't need 40 levels to have content. You just keep expanding what you have, like more dungeons, more battlegrounds, better rewards, different gear, give different cosmetics to grind those. So that can be considered content. You can have new stuff every month. The 10 months for a full release, still missing a lot of classes. And on the previous question mentioning, hopefully they'll finish Defender on time. A bit worrying for me. As far as the auction house and guilds, that they are content to spend hours and hours upon that, I have to disagree with the devs, because guilds, it will take me, what, 5 minutes to make, maybe an hour to do, you know, who is a leader and who is not a leader and stuff like that. Come on. Now, the auction house part, it can be considered content because people are going to start like checking the auction house, making Excel sheets, buying, selling and stuff like that. But it's not really content. Like, what is considered content, whether you like it or not, it's something like a dungeon, new areas, PvP, you know, crafting that you're going to have to spend a lot of time. But auction house, I mean, you're going to go in, buy some stuff, craft, and go and kill things. But if you have to kill the same things, then your content is pretty much the same. I disagree on that part. It is content, though, in the sense that we are adding stuff into the game. But how many hundreds of hours can you spend in an auction house or the guilds? Now, if with the guilds, because that is something we have to see. When they say, yeah, guilds is going to bring in content, and they're not referring to we have a guild, fix the permissions, but because guilds are meant to have territories, they're meant to have like, what are they called? Wheat farms. The ones you see around the cities, you're meant to claim those and produce resources for your guild to grow and other stuff. So yeah, that will be content, but that is something that has been said that's going to happen. But so for those of you that might follow assets of creation, we're looking at a similar system where you have places, resources, everybody puts in from the guild and you build something. Yeah, that way guild will have that, but guild itself as a function is not content. I agree with the player. Hey Skin, good morning. Yeah, more or less that. It sounds like that, yes. Question number 6. Hello, do you think the shaman needs to be reworked? In all builds can use only one skill and the other has no interest, and this class was really strong in some situation in PvP, like 1v1, but useless in many situations in magic, heal or physical. See my post for the detail with all information about that. Now, we're not going to click that. But, I mean, just because people play one build doesn't mean everything else is crap. The answer to this question was, Shaman does not need a complete overhaul like all the other classes. He requires improvement, and that is what we're working on. Yes, the Shaman has received a lot of stuff over the patch notes. Question number 7. Just before I move on, just say this. A lot of times people play a class and don't play it right, and they think it sucks. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you have to spend more time or at least ask a couple of questions how things are played. Also, not every build has the same potential as other. Like the Elemental Shaman is different from the melee. You can do different things. And they've mentioned before on a different Q&A The fact that the power of the shaman is not to be elemental or melee. He is a Swiss army knife. He doesn't do, in theory, he shouldn't be doing anything great. He's like medium DPS and medium heal. Is like the off DPS of heal. He's the off DPS range DPS with heal. He's a little bit, that's his power, that he can like help in every situation rather than actually being like the Warmonger tank or the Ranger DPS. He has that multi thing, which they have overtuned, and he can be a tank and DPS and a healer at the same time. So the changes are in that direction to make him multifunctional, right? Very useful in a group. Okay on his solo stuff, but not overwhelming as he has been in other situations so far. Question number 7. Since 8 people can get loot from bosses, mobs and stats, why is there not an option to make a raid group of 8? Will this be implemented? We will implement raid groups once we finish balancing and improving gameplay. This feature is available, but first we want to refine the key aspects of the game and then open up the possibility for players to form raid groups and decide on the format. Okay, I mean, we do need raids because it's really annoying to coordinate 2 groups without chat with different chats. And, you know, I talk to this guy, you talk to this guy, you go to Discord, you go to PMs, and it is necessary. But I don't see why we have to wait to balance the game. What does that have to do with the whole grouping? I think it's 2 irrelevant things. We should have that option ages ago. Is the legendary gear orange still in the plan? Yes, of course, legendary items will be in the game, but at a later stage of development. The time has not yet come. Okay. We'll see. I mean, gear is getting crazy, man. The way the crafting and the options on it just getting crazy. Question number 9. That's not a question, mate. This is a fucking essay. Jesus. Hello. Other question about this answer. As for the hardcore players leaving due to lack of motivation or the game feeling too easy, it's always disheartening for us as developers. We're working hard to provide meaningful reasons for them to return. That was the answer to previous question. Currently, this is the question itself. Currently, the hardcore players leaving because of this reason. Okay, they're leaving because of this reason. Highly optimized artifact nerfs and wipes that keep them coming to retry again and again. Remove the kit, remove the good loot on the bosses. Now we're no longer talking about difficulty or get a good stuff, but intensive farming with little interest. Talking to NPCs, trying to find alive bosses. No vision, no long-term vision, and the fear of having to start all over again. Like Mana Refund and the last update with the star who said, hey, you can again recreate all your stuff if you want to be opti for the next PvP area. My question is, we're getting there. Won't you have to remake it difficult to get stuff without a random and very long farm? This will allow big players to test different builds and would give you a large amount of data to balance your game and good feedback. Or maybe even a test server with unlimited stuff to test everything so that you can balance your game perfectly without frustrating players who are trying to do it on the current version. You'll not only gain a greater deal of reputation, you'll also greatly improve the quality of the game. Whew, big questions. And the answer to that essay is, we're doing exactly as you mentioned. We're making build creation more accessible and generally opening up more opportunities for players to explore gameplay. I've been ready for 10 minutes for one line answer. I mean, they are making changes. It's early access / alpha. That's how I call it anyways. And the changes are huge. The farm is big. If you want to actually minimax everything right now, you have to play a lot of hours and minimax stuff. Question number 10. Why are bank tabs so prohibitively expensive? Who in their right mind pays 3,200 plus gold for a tab when they can create multiple mule characters to free to store items? Bank inventory with all the materials like profession, food, synthesis, resource, artifact, consumable, chips and runes and so on. Can we get increased storage? Yes, they did mention, I don't know the answer, what's the answer? Yes, we are working on increasing the number of stacks per cell in the inventory, and we will do so in the coming days. I don't know if this is in the game, but they did mention that they will be making the stacks in the banks 60. So like you stack 20, now you're going to stack 60 per stack, but only in the inventory of the bank. In your personal inventory, when you go out to PV and PvP, the stacks will still be 20. That's a good thing, because if you die, you don't drop 60, you drop 20, but then you can stack more into the bank. I mean, that's going to save some space for sure, but I don't know if that's going to be enough with the way people play. I mean, I play a lot of hours, and I don't consider myself to be a huge hoarder, like getting stuff into the bank, and I still run out of space very fast. Suppose those people that are more skillful than I am and farming more efficiently, like, because I kill like 1 camp, 4 mobs, you know, move on to the next one. There's people pulling 3, 4, 5, 6 mobs, 6 camps, so they're like 40 mobs in the kill them, the farm, and like all that 12 hours a day. They have a massive amount of resources, and even that, I don't think that's going to be enough. Okay, now that was the 7 questions from the cycle 7. Now we're going to the bonus questions of the cycle. Seems like the devs want to be answering more stuff, and they're also combining answers, as we can see here, or questions. With the current state of the game and the exponential increase in mana cost to use any abilities, the game feels like an auto attack simulator. When can we expect mana cost to be more viable, as well as actual real natural mana regen while in combat? Mana vials and pipes do not count, instead of only outside of combat. Combining that question with another, even with the buffs on mana items, characters we want to cast skills constantly still can't. Sorry, I personally understand that if we want to continue casting, we need to use mana items. However, it is still necessary to use many consumables, mana siphon, rejuvenating essence, mana cost reduction, etc., and eventually the mana can still run out. Do you intend to somehow add mana regeneration in battle that scales with maximum mana or something like that, so the characters can keep casting constantly? The answer to that is, we have not yet fully achieved what we want with mana. We will continue to study the available solutions, and if they prove insufficient, we will certainly make further adjustments, but it is still too early to draw conclusions. 2 things here. First, to answer on the chat there, I think they're trying to combat gold and mat sellers. Yes, they have mentioned this is the reason why we don't have an auction house. They want to come up with an idea that's going to prohibit that, or at least they said we can avoid gold sellers, but we want to try and make it as hard as possible and have a minimum impact on the game. So this is one reason we don't have an auction house. That was something they said in June or July 2024. As far as this goes with the mana situation, to our friend here on the second part, that says so that the characters can keep casting constantly. That is wrong. There's no caster on the universe. It should be able to cast constantly. Okay, what I mean is, even if you go far back to any game, and let's go to the most popular World of Warcraft, even in Rage, the healers run out of mana. They have mechanics to buff, but they did have to stop. Like personally with my Shaman, on the 40 raids, I had to stop, drop my mana totem, I had to drink a potion, stop casting, like leave the tank, go to 20%, don't just keep him at 50 above. You know, I had to make some choices. Stop. I did have passive regen then to try and maintain my mana for as long as possible, especially on first time going to a raid. People weren't very geared. You had to stop and allow yourself some regeneration passively. Here we have items. So he says he wants passive regeneration. It would definitely help in a lot of things, but the game originally are designed to use massive amounts of consumables. Your counterfeit pills, which you have to craft from the smallest to the biggest, which also take a lot of mats. Like the game is industry heavy. Because you need to have this. You can get them from boxes and stuff, and I'm sure they will add more, but it is heavy industry. You need to have your counterfeit pills, you need to play with rerolls on the synthesis, and don't just have artifacts that say attack power, critical, critical, critical. You need to have attack power, mana regen, health regen, damage reduction, you know, critical. You have to split it throughout. That is the plan. The fact that we have artifacts with 6 DPS artifacts, like 6 combat sleeves, that is going to go away. I mean, they even mentioned or considering to have only 2 similar artifacts. You know what I mean? or have 6, but then after the second or the third one, you're going to have diminishing returns, making the 5th or the 6th really not worth having. So you will have to adjust and do some different combinations. People keep asking for mana upgrades, yet we're tweaking the mana stuff in a way like a drug dealer. Give a little bit and get more people hooked. That's making it too grindy. Yeah, it's still early. What they do is they just do tiny changes, as you say, little trickling changes, see how that works, and they do again and again. They don't have like, that's it, 10% and that's it. They just go overboard and they start going like 1%, 1%, 1%, 0.5%, 1% until they find what works. This process with the mana will take all 10 months to fix. I'll tell you why it will take all 10 months to fix, because even if they fix it right now, as soon as the Fire Mage comes in, as soon as the Warlock comes in, which are like 100% mana, then they will have to readjust. So don't expect mana to become viable tomorrow. It will become viable in the next 6-7 months, because as the classes will come in, because they're not ready, they're not being tested, they will have to do more adjustment to the mana. So I know the game may be unplayable. I don't play anymore. I just read and watch. I'm waiting. Like I said, maybe when the Defender comes in next month, we'll jump in and play that. But until then, I'm just watching and learning as much as I can. The mana will take a very long time to fix. Bonus question number 2 for cycle 7. Have you considered batch or passive refining crafting, at least for basic materials, cooking, and consumables? Great idea, by the way. Currently, most refining crafting sessions are 20 to 30 minutes endeavors, conservatively, even when refining basic materials and or crafting consumables after a long gathering session. Many items also have multiple potential stages in the crafting process, bread, ammo, etc. It would be nice to be able to craft some of the more basic items in batches, 5-10 per craft, and or to have some method of passive refining. I leave my materials at the station and collect them later rather than needing to AFK for 10 to 20 minutes during every refining session. You see what I'm talking about, saying a bit earlier, that people like to get a lot of resources, 20 to 30 minutes on refining. All right? Imagine how much these people actually farm. And this guy is a streamer. He streams every day. He plays a lot of hours on and off stream. He probably burns about 20, maybe 12 to 14 hours a day. He has every single character leveled up. He's doing more characters. He's doing builds and has pretty much everything in the game. He hasn't left a single day. And he spends 20 to 38 minutes on that. But that possibly is for every character. It's like 30 minutes for every character. When he mines, when he does skinning, herbalism and stuff like that. When he's making stuff. So, you know what I mean? It's a long time to just sit 20, 30 minutes there. Personally, I do what he says, AFK crafting, like I'll gather them and then I click it and I go and cook for 20 minutes, come back, put the next one, go eat, and then come back into this. But this is truly not a good way of dealing with your game. So the answer to that question is yes, we see the additional functions are needed in the overhaul. We will work in that direction and try to implement great solution. Bonus question number 3. I feel like Artificial Core has a habit of releasing features that haven't been thoroughly tested. No shit. Only to later redesign them because they realize that they don't work well on live servers or how they expected them to be. This constant back and forth leads to unnecessary delays. Take the old secondary stats, for example. They were introduced just a few months ago and now they're being undone. Wouldn't it be better to fully consider a concept and its long-term potential before finalizing it? That way, you wouldn't have to keep revising the same features over and over again. And no, this is not about testing phase only, but in general. Wouldn't a more thoughtful approach lead to a better decision, especially when it comes to core mechanics? Yep, let's see what they said. It seems we have different perspectives. From our point of view, we have not deviated from the vision and concept of the game since the first day of the announcement, and we are very proud of that. In our understanding, a more thoughtful approach is exactly what is happening now. We are truly observing how players play, seeing what works and what doesn't, and making changes or improvements as needed. We understand that you mean it to. We understand that you mean it would be better to plan everything in detail once and then make no further changes. However, we work on a different principle. For us to make a final decision, we need data from the live servers. I think that both correct on this question and answer. Like, I understand where Pizza Reads Poetry comes from. It does look like that. Like, hey, I have an idea. Let's add secondary stats to the gear and then we'll give some buffs to them. Oh, great idea. Let's put it in the game, right? It's there. Now, let's see what the player's going to do with this. Oh, this is over buffing things. Okay, let's nerf this, let's nerf that, let's do this. Okay, it kind of works, but hey, I have a better idea. What if we buff the talent tree and then we put this into the gear and we tie those two together? So you spend points on that and we mix that and then we kind of like take off the secondary. It doesn't seem to be working very well. You know what I mean? It still has like the same effect. You have a secondary stat there, what it's called, a secondary stat or talent tiding or whatever. It's still there. I think that's what Pizza is talking about. Like, have a plan. You're going to have secondary stats, have the bloody secondary stats, and kind of like fix them how the players play. Don't put them in, see that don't work, take them out, put something else in there. That's what he's talking about. From the perspective of the devs, they're also correct. And that is something, I'm not sure if other companies are doing this. Other companies have, let's say, thought through their design and they say this is it, and then people find ways to break that, to abuse that and use it, and they don't change it to how people are playing. The fact that Artificial Core is trying to build a game based and the core mechanics and the stats and everything on how people play, it's a good approach because that way it helps to have a game played the way people play it and not how you want, and then people don't like it, or people play differently and it doesn't work. It's a good approach to have that idea, but at the same time, it's a problem. It's a huge problem what Artificial Core is doing. And the reason for that is they say that they gather data to see how people play and react to the things that they're doing. Okay, that's fine. But let's say, we just said the benefit, but let's see what's the downside of this. The downside of this is that right now you have, for example, 1,000 players. So these 1,000 players play your game and perceive the changes in a certain way. Okay, and that is November. On December, you have 500 players from those 1,000, and then you have 300 new players. So you have 800 players, but you have 500 of the old and 300 of the new. So the 300 new don't like what you did in November. So in December, you have to adjust this to accommodate these guys. Then we go to January, you had 800 people. From those, you have only 200 left, and then you have 800 new players who don't like anything you did the previous 2 months. So now they play the game differently. So what, you adjust the whole game again? You know what I mean? Like, you can't get the data how people play because people change and they play differently. Also, they play differently depending how long they've been playing the game. Like, when I start, I'll play 12 to 14 hours a day. Mid game, I'll drop down to 8. End game, I'll drop down to 12 or even stop and play every weekend, right? You can't keep getting info on how people play and adjust your core mechanics how people play. They have to be there the way you meant them to be, and people play around that. If you keep changing, it will never end. It will never end. Companies need money, but hardcore grinder players do not make money for companies. They farm what they need. Yeah, I mean, hardcore players, it's the casual, as you say, it's the casual players that bring the money in. It's the casual players that have to do, but casual players come and go. So it's one thing to say, I collect data on how my system works, and it's another thing to say, I collect data on how people play, and then I adjust my system. This will never end if they're trying to adjust that. And I think we've mentioned before in one of our chats that we do have the feeling here in this channel that they are just trying to please everybody while maintaining their concepts so don't become liars at the end. And that is a very difficult thing to achieve. Bonus question number 4. I want to play as a solo self-found player. I therefore choose not to do boss fights that require group. Do you wish to support this type of player? If so, achieving T3 currently is very, very hard due to obtaining T3 resources via gathering nodes that are not bosses. Will my type of playstyle be better supported going forward, or is Corepunk not the game for me? Solo playing Corepunk presents its own challenges, but there are many tools available for that style of gameplay. A solo player has various ways to acquire T3 items without access to boss farming. T3 resources can be obtained by farming T3 nodes or exchanged for other resources available to solo players. We will continuously expand the options for solo players, but a solo player will never be as effective as a full group given the amount of time. Given the same amount of time, and that's just the way it is. Well, on the last answer of the devs, yes, I mean, a solo player will never achieve what a group does. That is a fact, but it is possible to play. But like a lot of people have it different in their minds. Like the thing I'm going to go kill a mob solo and I'm going to get the same resources I get from a boss. Their idea is that, okay, you go and kill like 1 billion boars and get skin and then trade 100 of your skin for one like epic from a boss, from a group from a boss. So they get the basics from you. So basically you are the basic material supplier for groups and then give you the rare because they get a lot more. Give you an idea of numbers. A group doing 8 hours a day boss farming on the marshes on the far north ends up having something like one of the epic materials you skin from the bosses, like 150 to 200 epic materials. A solo player will never get that. That is split in like 8 people, right? Sorry, my math kind of sucks. So what's about 2 each, right? Yeah. So I said they're going to have 150 divided by 8. No, they have about 18 each. That player, the solo player, will most likely have to grind the same amount of time to get that, like 2 or 3 of those. It's still possible to do, but it's not effective. But I think people want to have the same efficiency. Like, okay, if a group makes 20 an hour, I want to be, as a solo, I want to be making like, if the group of 8 makes 20, they want to be making like 15. That's not going to happen. They're probably going to be making 1 or 2, which is not enough. So that's the way it's going to be. It's always been like this with solo players. Good morning, Smite. Bonus question number 5. Will we be able to reload chips in the future? It feels really bad to pour hours and hours of farm materials into a single overclocked chip only to have it roll minimum values. Be worse than a regular one and having no way to work towards being better. Reload chips are on the way and will be released together with T3 weapons in the content update. Just a reminder, this is meant to be next month, the content update. And bonus question number 6. How do you repair forged artifacts and how often? What does it cost? Forged artifacts have 100 working resource points. In battle, the artifact loses 1 point every 30 seconds and its death causes to lose 5 points. To repair it, you will have to use special consumables. We will see about the reforged stuff. This is, if you've seen the last patch notes, we'll see on this patch notes as well, there's new stuff. So now, on top of all the other stuff we have, now we also have damage on the artifacts and we have to repair them. Otherwise they don't work, which means more, gold sinks, more time sinks, more materials to store in the bank, and more hours spending on preparing, repairing, and combat and stuff. So far on this repairing situation, there's a lot of people that think that it is really heavy at the moment, like they take a lot of damage. It's 1 point every 30 seconds, so it's 2 points a minute. So yeah, you have about an hour before the break, something like that. Yeah, it's 100 points. Yeah, divided by 2 is about 50 minutes if you don't die, because if I die it's less than 50. So basically, a player playing 8 hours will most likely will have to repair 9 to 10 times during his play session, which is kind of ridiculous. Maybe once or twice, yeah, but repairing 8 to 10 times every time I play, times 6? And also don't forget, this also works passively, like it's 1 point every 30 seconds in combat. So if you have a very long combat, like getting to combat all the time, like going from spot to spot, boss to boss, or in a dungeon, which you're gonna be like permanently in combat, like by the time you get to the boss, you're gonna have to repair twice. So this is gonna be reworked, I think, but we'll see. Anyways, that was the questions from Cycle 7. Cycle 8 will be out in tomorrow or the day after or something like that, but we'll get onto that next Monday. I think every Monday, because the patch notes are Friday, we'll do a little stream and we'll update ourselves on this. We do need more stuff, like a lot of people asking for this, that we like stats and things, to know how many people are playing, how many people come and go, how many people join the servers, you know, stuff like that. We do have something that just popped up on Corepunk official. Please check out our latest post. I'll just bring that over to your screens. Latest, okay, update of February 10th, fresh out of the press, just came out. Hello everyone, today we want to give you a small update on what we are currently working on, some clarification regarding recent updates and the game as a whole. Progress on the upcoming content update, Prison Island. Hold on, just make this a little bit bigger for both our benefits. The island is now physically complete and we are currently polishing specific elements of level design required for its gameplay. Monsters and bosses inhabiting the island are actively being assembled and polished. Most of the work related to animation, assets, models, effects, and other resource-intensive production tasks have been completed. Now our focus is entirely on assembling, refining, and preparing this content for release. Okay, it's planned for next month, so we have a bit of time. Defender Hero. The hero has gone through almost all stages of content production, is now in the assembly and polishing phase. We're pushing for its release together with Prison Island. King's Battleground Zone. The industrial zone and depot in the open world have been completely reworked. The new set of mobs for this location is still in the semi-finished state, created but waiting for the turn for final assembly. We are considering releasing the updated location soon to improve the experience for players farming in that area. However, the full gameplay features and the new mob pack will be added after the Prison Island release, and our main focus is currently on that. Okay, so they want to get the island out and then finish and put some more mobs into the game. Tier 3 upgraded, overclocked, and forged T3 upgraded, overclocked items, how they work. Holy crap, now that's going to be... This is part of the... We're going to see some of this on the patch notes because we haven't done them last Friday's patch notes. There's new items here, new combinations and stuff. So it's going to get crazy to get your head around this. We recently released an update on the constructor profession and introduced Tier 3 artifacts linked to passive talent trees. However, many players have raised concern about the cost of crafting these items. The production cost balancing is still an ongoing process. Currently, the cost is quite high. We want players to be able to craft and experiment much more freely. The availability of crafting resources will be expanding in the coming days, but the core idea remains that the components for the forge system should be relatively expensive within the game's economy. Here's why. Forged artifacts were not introduced to replace Tier 3 upgraded, overclocked items in the market, nor are they meant to be the next evolutionary stage of itemization. Instead, forged Tier 3 items were designed to complement and balance Tier 3 upgraded, overclocked items. These systems work together as a whole, supporting and stabilizing each other rather than competing. If a player tries to achieve their goal, maximizing 12 selected talents across 6 artifacts, using only one of the 2 systems, the cost will be significantly high. 6 Tier 3 upgraded overclocked artifacts will be expensive due to the need to roll and reroll talent combinations. 6 forged Tier 3 artifacts will be expensive to maintain over time. So this is what they're doing, is like you need a lot of mats and reroll to get the stats on the T3 upgraded and overclock, but once you do, you spend your resources and you have them, that's it. However, the T3 They are easier math-wise to craft, but they have the damage component, so you have to keep paying to repair them. So you pay the cost once and re-roll once you get it, and with the RNG system, of course, and you're happy with it. And here, you do that with more standard stuff, but then you have to keep paying constantly. I don't know which one is better, but I suppose the player that plays this, once it's balanced, it won't be too much if you play a lot. The misunderstanding stems from players seeing this system as conflicting rather than synergetic. But when viewed correctly, their role becomes clear. The key gameplay mechanic is properly mixed both types of artifacts. The better you do this, the more cost efficient and optimized your build becomes. By combining both, they balance each other out and lower the overall cost of building the final character setup while increasing the probability of achieving the desired results. Tier 3 upgraded overclocked artifacts allow players to roll the talents they need. Forged Tier 3 artifacts help complete the missing talent combinations. I'm just going to take a little pause here. We want you to craft more freely, yet the cost is high. Yeah, I mean, it depends how you see that. They want you to craft more freely, in the sense that you have more shit to craft freely and make free combinations. The cost is going to be high because it has to be high. Why? Because we need to get data and see how high it is and how we need to adjust it. So bust your ass, do this, do a lot of combos and stuff like that. Hey, Lucky Skiller, Tier 3 Forged just feels horrible in my opinion. Feels like you get punished for having a good implant, having to take damage over time just by playing. Yes. I mean, they're not cheaper to make. If you could make a T3 and say, you know, it cost me 1 gold and an overclock cost me 150 gold, but I'll pay that 150 gold over time on repairs, I would say, okay. But it feels like you have to put the same amount of effort and then you get punished with the repairs. Width is not balanced. I mean, like every 50 minutes, you have to repair it. Times 6 if you have 6 of them, if you actually go on that path. So it's not that great. I agree with you. Now mix and matching, you're still gonna have to have at least 2 or 3 of them, so you're still gonna have to do 3 times the repair every 50 minutes, provided you don't die. And you know, I say an hour, taking account you're gonna be constantly in combat doing dungeons, PvP, farming and stuff like that. It's not great. Most games have this feature like when you die, that would be better, but over time, I don't know. Let's hope they're going to come up with a better plan for this. It's very difficult. And also, it feels unnecessary to have these mechanics. And there's more mechanics we're going to talk about on the patch notes. The goal, the ideal build will be 4 times Tier 3 and 2 Forged Tier 3. As this is the most cost-efficient combination in terms of crafting and upkeep. A 3+3 split will likely be the most common build since it is significantly easier to achieve the correct combination. However, there will be players running 6 Forged T3s and the extremely lucky ones managing 6 times original T3. Like I said, I mean, that doesn't sound really bad. I mean, if you play a lot of hours and you're good at the trading, you have enough money for this shit. So will this give you an advantage over 6 overclocks? A player has a build idea focused on passive talents and they want to enhance using T3 upgraded overclocked items. They roll the right talents, but on different artifacts. This is where Forged T3 artifacts come in, allowing the player to fine-tune and finalize the missing talent combinations. We are actively monitoring gameplay data and collecting the necessary information to make meaningful adjustments. If certain aspects of the system seem illogical at the moment, it is often because the system is not yet fully implemented as intended and we are working on refining it. Dude, like fucking seriously, I am tired of reading the system is not yet fully implemented. Give us a fucking fully implemented system to test, man. I mean, like, oh, so this doesn't work. We haven't finished it yet. You put it in, oh, this doesn't work. We haven't finished it yet. Dude, I mean, like, how are we going to see how the hell this thing works? You know, make sense of it. I am tired of reading is not yet fully implemented. Just finish it. Give it to us so we can test it. Because when you do the next stage of the implementation, everything we know goes to the fucking bin. It doesn't work. It has to work in a different way because of the next stage. It's insane. Harder to get, harder to obtain, slow down people so they can add more content because it seems they can keep up with the players. No game can keep up with the players. This is not an artificial core problem. It may be a way for that, Dutch, like they're doing it for this, slow down people so they have time to implement more content. However, no game right now on the market, any game at the market right now, can keep up with the player base playing the game, simply because they have to cover PvE, PvP, casual, hardcores, and all this, while one player plays one style and they play 10 to 12 hours a day. The only way for a company to keep up with the player base and content, like by the time they finish, let's say, the content to have ready the next one, is to limit the gameplay of each player to 4 hours per day max. Like when you play on the server 4 hours, it locks you out for 24. Then you play 4 hours next time. This is the only way for a company to keep up content with players. When players are allowed to play 12 to 14 hours, 12 to 14 hours a day, then the company will never keep up content with the player base. Never. It's impossible. Unless they stop doing anything else and they have a specific company just for content creation. Everybody else does something else. So what's next? We are now preparing to release the next set of enhanced gameplay systems. Up next are mysticism, alchemy, and weaponsmithing. Great. Each of these systems will have its own impact on gameplay and playstyle diversity. Our goal is to provide the broadest range of tools and options for players to experiment with without stacking overlapping mechanics that create confusion. Really? Corepunk's design philosophy ensures that each system integrates uniquely into the game without unnecessary duplication. Most systems are distinct in their mechanics and do not simply copy and redistribute the same improvements across different areas. This keeps the gameplay clear and accessible for newcomers while offering deep, interconnected mechanics for players who want to dive in further. This approach preserves the easy-to-play, hard-to-master concept, creating a network of gameplay systems that interact in unique ways to produce truly original results. They're right on this. I mean, their system not like that, but they are a little bit confusing, especially the synthesis machine that fucks everything up. Open world enhancements. The open world is Corepunk's signature feature. We intentionally designed it for continuous and immersive play. The world of Corepunk will never be just background. It will always be a key gameplay element where major events unfold. Soon we will introduce the next iteration of open world gameplay. A detailed breakdown of the new mechanics will be released alongside the new features. So pretty much everything we know about the areas goes bye-bye. In short, the open world will become a massive battle arena where solo players, small groups, and mid-sized gangs will compete over profitable activities and points of interest in a way to promote maximum fun and tactical gameplay. Why does that sound to me like if you don't have a group, you're dead? You will start noticing these changes in the coming weeks. We will begin reworking the world layout to support this new enhanced gameplay. Sorry, I'm going back to this very shortly because I watched the video from a stream where an assassin, an infiltrator, kills the entire group, dealing 2.8k damage to players per shot. Yeah, that's going to be fun. We'll see. You will start noticing these changes in the coming weeks as we begin reworking the world layout to support this new enhanced gameplay. The feel of the world and the experience of playing in it will evolve significantly with each new open world content update. I will go back and play when the Defender is back in, or when the guild goes back into play. Plans for this week, today is Monday, this week. As we repeatedly stated, our main focus right now is item optimization. Our top priority is delivering smooth gameplay. Still to happen, ... We firmly believe that even the core in gameplay with improved performance, we feel completely different and significantly more satisfying. We'll see. This week, we plan to showcase the first results of this work, hopefully. Finally, this week, we will dedicate a significant amount of resources to fixing critical bugs. Several major bugs are negatively impacting the gameplay experience, and due to our focus on features and content, we have not had enough time to address them. Starting this week, we will allocate at least half of our available resources to bug fixes. Okay, that's a good little shift. Final note, our focus remains the same, significantly improving the player experience. This week, our main approach to achieving this is through performance improvement. A smooth gameplay experience is essential for any game. All the content and features we introduce will only truly shine when the game is well optimized. Still waiting. Once Corepunk receives a fully optimized client, note, once it does that, it will reveal its full potential in an entirely new way. Still waiting. We are moving forward with confidence every week and gradually unveiling more of Corepunk to you. Thank you for being with us. See you in the game.